The issue that we've come across with a lot of our customers as they've migrated maybe from QuickBooks or Xero over into NetSuite is they've really improved the granularity of the data that they are able to have access to in their GL or their ERP in the case of NetSuite, right? And so that has a lot of great benefits, but it also increases the transaction volume that's coming into your general ledger. So you'll see a lot more transactions coming in and a lot more data. And what that leaves a lot of our customers doing is potentially hiring even full-time hires or multiple full-time hires, or at least part of a person's time to go through and reconcile all of the individual transactions that were created in a NetSuite instance to the batch deposits that they receive in the bank. So what we do here at Blue Onion is we're connecting to all of those source systems so that we can create a unified set of data that goes all the way from order to cash, and then also then pulls in that NetSuite data so that we can build those batch deposits. So I'd like to walk through some examples here and talk through exactly how that looks in our system, but then we can also look at how that looks in a NetSuite implementation and what a deposit might look like there. When we integrate, what we do is we can integrate to your systems. We will integrate into your order management systems, your payment processors, and into your bank account directly. What those three connections allow us to do is exactly that stitching I was talking about. We can go from order to payment out to payout. All of these integrations are APIs that we maintain on our side. If we go into orders, right, these are all applications, authorizations that we can click here that takes you to Shopify, logs straight into your store, gives us that integration. It's usually less than 2 minutes. Payment processors as well. We support all of these different payment processors today, and we have direct integrations via API where we can collect that data. And that's really a lot of the meat that allows us to do what we want to do here. We're never guessing about fees or payment processing fees that happen from those vendors, chargebacks, reserves, anything that kind of happens directly at the payment processor, we get directly from them, and we're never kind of guessing what's happening there. Bank accounts, we use services like Plaid or Teller, or can also connect through third-party integrators into NetSuite or use your file cabinet in NetSuite to grab that bank data. And then finally, we're going to do that NetSuite integration, which is both a pull and a push integration. So first, we'll look at what that pull looks like as I jump back over here to our general ledger payout reconciliation page. This is where really a lot of our customers spend most of their time, because this is a summary page that pulls all of that data together that we just walked through. If I go through and I look at this page, and we'll just take this first transaction, I see a deposit into my Wells Fargo account for 901.96. When I jump over here, I'm looking at payment processor data. So this is data straight from Klarna. I also see that they initiated a payment over to your Wells Fargo account for 901.96. So we can look for variances over here on settlement. So settlement tells us between Klarna in this case and Wells Fargo, they both know the same thing. That's going to be pretty true for all payment processors. But then here in the middle, and again, this is from the benefit of us connecting directly to Klarna, is we can pull out payment processor fees, chargebacks, other types of transactions that happen directly at Klarna that we know are not going to be represented in your NetSuite. That's not a part of your upstream integration, like via Taligo or Boomi, FarApp, SuperSync, any of those different systems. And so we get to essentially the gross amount that we're expecting from the upstream integration, which would be really just the net sales and refunds that have been created in your NetSuite. And those will be represented via entities like cash sale, customer deposit, cash refund, customer payment, things like that. We grab all of those entities and can rec those. And those will be represented here under the general ledger total transactions. So what this allows us, or what this is showing us, and again, we can look over here at the total transaction variance. This means that we've actually fully accounted for all of the general ledger transactions that are in your NetSuite that make up this payout from Klarna. So let's look into what that means in detail. So here, over here on this, using this view button, we can actually open up a payout detail page that's going to show us the information that's included in this payout. Here we see this as our 3-1 payout into Wells Fargo from Klarna. Once we've pushed this over to NetSuite, this is actually going to populate with the deposit record ID as a hyperlink to NetSuite, where you can actually just pop right over to NetSuite and see that record directly in NetSuite. Under variance here, payout to payment, we see that we know the same 901.96 between our payment processor and our bank. And under transactions, this is between our GL and our payment processor. So we see the same value there. You'll notice that this payment processor value and this one are different. Those are going to be those fees and other transactions that are kind of in the middle. So that's that gross to net walk. And down here under unreconciled transactions, we're pulling your attention to the transactions that are actually leading you or are things that you need to focus on, right? Might be issues that are being surfaced via our reconciliation. You can see in this payout, we're not seeing any. If I just jump over here to the reconciled tab, what I'm seeing are here are all of the order IDs and transactions that make up this Klarna payout. And here are all of the matching general ledger transactions that also correspond to that, right? So this is basically saying, hey, automatically we've accounted for everything that's included in this payout, and we can take care of that for you. Once that's fully taken care of, what we can do is we can select this and any transaction that's fully reconciled. So you can see I can select multiple here. I hit export. And this is actually, I can do this as a CSV export that I'm going to import into NetSuite. If you don't want to do this via API, we can send this as a journal entry via API. But what most of our customers, especially if they're using kind of the native feature of undeposited funds in NetSuite, is they're going to use the deposit transaction to push this over. This customer has chosen not to use their posting periods, but in most implementations, we'll be able to actually see all of the open posting periods and allow you to select the exact posting period that you want that to go to. You hit export, and that actually initiates the API push over into your NetSuite, where that deposit will be created directly in NetSuite. So let's go over and see what that looks like. Here, the details of this payout are a little bit different than the one that I walked through, but this is a great example of exactly how this is actually going to push over into a NetSuite instance. So here, what we're looking at is the actual deposit transaction that's created in a NetSuite instance. It's depositing into a bank account, as we all would expect, at the net value. We'll put in here a memo for the date that the payout is and the payment processor that's paying that out. We can also support things like class, location, multi-subsidiary, things like that. So all of those things are things that we can deal with, and even custom segments that you might have built within your implementation process. And then what we'll do obviously is send over the actual payment details of that payout. So here are the list of customer deposits that are included in this payout. We're showing you each of those. If we were to open these and go back to the actual customer deposit, right, the status of those by us using this deposit transaction has updated from not deposited to deposited. So using that native flow like we talked about with undeposited funds. And then over here on our cashback side, we're showing you the payment processor fees that are being charged for each of these. These are going to the account that this customer has selected in their onboarding process. So we go through in our onboarding and help you set up a chart of account mapping for every single transaction for each payment processor. You even get the benefit of us seeing this across hundreds of customers so that we know what a chargeback or a dispute fee or reserve looks like from Amazon Pay, even if you've never seen one before. You can see here this customer is elected to push these expenses over at a transaction level. So they have one line of merchant fee per customer deposit, but we can also collapse those and show you just one line per payout. This is how this will look. We will create one deposit for each bank deposit that we looked at over here on our payout reconciliation page. So whether you select 1 or 2 or 50 different transactions, we will still push all of those over as individual deposits so that when you get to the match bank data module and you're trying to do your reconciliation, those are going to pair up automatically through the run reconciliation rules with them already matching the actual bank data, being on the same day, same amount, all of that. A common question that we'll get kind of at this point, okay, that's really great for those that you've been able to reconcile everything, but what if my NetSuite data isn't totally perfect? What if I have issues on my NetSuite data? And so we've built in some tools to help with that. There's a variety of different ways, and I'll kind of go through 2 of them to help that out. So one of them is actually through this same view button that we looked at before. On this view button, I selected a transaction here for Shopify installments that wasn't fully reconciled. It's showing me I have a transaction value. You can see here, if I were to try to select that to push, it says you can't export this payout because there's a mismatch. And so we're not going to allow you to push something that's not reconciled. But we're going to give you tools to take care of this. Here, what we're seeing is a payout. We've gone through all of these details before, right? But now in this unreconciled transactions, we see that we actually have payments on this side that are from Shopify installments in this case, so from the payment processor. And then general ledger transactions on this side, we'll pull in anything that we see that's related to this transaction that we've not been able to fully reconcile. So it looks like here we have two refunds that we've not been able to fully reconcile, and one refund that's related to one of those on the right-hand side. So I can look here, I see order ID ending in 3322. I see the same order ID here, 3322, a value of $100, $132.71. Same thing on this side. So what this typically will mean is probably another transaction related to this order isn't fully reconciled. And so we're just letting you know not everything with this order is okay. If you choose to override that, you can easily select this refund here and say, I want you to send this refund in this deposit. Please go ahead and include that. So that's one way you can kind of help out there. But you can also see we have a refund here where we don't have any associated transaction for $133.99. What we can do here, first option is that we'd always love to solve the root cause of any transaction issue here, right? So we'd say, hey, maybe our integration is dropping refunds when it comes through this certain channel or something like that. And we'd love to fix that root problem, but also recognizing that sometimes you need to close the books and you want some release valve. So we've built in this variance adjustment account here that allows you to actually put in here and say, I want to send a payment for $133.99 to my return sales credit returns, right? And I say this is a return for order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so now you can see, actually now I've taken care of this full variance. I'm able to export this and I can actually take care of this completely from this screen. That's unblocked me from not being able to push that deposit. And you'll be able to even see in the description as we push that over into NetSuite that that'll say you've manually included this refund and that this item here will be on that cashback tab and be more of a topside journal entry or a topside GL impact. It won't be associated through the customer to a refund and actually connected back to the customer there. I want to make that very clear, but it does give you the ability to impact your GL in the way that you might want in that scenario. I'll go over one last bit here on the order reconciliation page before we can kind of complete the process. But what we also do here is we've created a general ledger order reconciliation page. And so I know there's a lot of data on the screen right now. Let's narrow that down so that we can kind of look at the things that we might care about. So we have this order to GL payment reconciliation status. So that means, are there any orders that aren't fully reconciled between what Blue Onion knows and what we have in our data between us and NetSuite? So here you can see records where we're identifying variances between the two systems. Here we have the Shopify order, and we can hyperlink out to that. We have the GL transactions. Those also are hyperlinked out to NetSuite. And so it's a one-stop shop kind of dashboard where you can actually reconcile and go back to source systems and figure out the issues. And you can actually see here, we have a penny difference here, which is really fine. We actually allow for a tolerance up to 2 pennies, but we also have a missing refund on this transaction where Blue Onion knows a refund that NetSuite's missing. We'll highlight these transactions. It allows you to kind of drill down in detail, right? You can see where did this refund come from. We have the full details of the payments that actually generated this refund to show you. And we can see it was actually even an Australian refund that happened on January 12th. The original order happened on January 12th, refund initiated on March 1st. Helps you identify that. You can even from here jump back to Shopify and find that transaction. So a really flexible report here that allows you to find all the information you might need to be able to reconcile all of that information before you get over to this page and want to push deposits. A few other things that I just want to highlight here before we wrap up. Chart of account mapping. So we allow you to do chart of account mapping the way that you want to. For Klarna, right, they can map their chargebacks to their chargeback account, their clearing to their clearing, and their processing fees to their processing fees. And you're in complete control of how all of these transactions happen. This is built flexibly across all of the different payment processors. So you'll see here, Klarna has a relatively small field of things to be mapped. If I go over to Shopify, a much longer list of things. So we know there are a lot of different types of payment types that might be happening for those different payment processors. The other final thing that I want to show here are additional field mappings. And so we can allow you to map these fields for different departments, locations, custom mappings. Those are the things that I was talking about before here. Once we have this up and running and we've collected those custom fields for you, we can easily map those and say, hey, when payments come through my D2C store, those should always go to department D2C. Or if they come through my wholesale store, those should always be department wholesale, things like that. So that's really our NetSuite integration and what it can do for you today. Look forward to meeting you all in the future.